Welcome to In a World with Real Media. I'm your host, Brad Burrow. In this podcast, we'll dive into the lives of the most successful people in business. We'll learn how they overcame adversity, took advantage of opportunities, and learned from their experiences. Learn from our experts, get inspired, then go live your story. It's In a World with Real Media. Hello and welcome to the In a World with Real Media podcast. And I have my really good friend, Will Palmer, with me here today. We're in a Vistage group together, which is awesome. And Will is the founder and CEO of Growth Lab and Performance Content Partners, an SEO expert, digital marketing expert. I mean, Will, every time I'm around you, I feel like I'm a sponge, and I want to learn something about SEO. It's like the great unknown to most marketers that are out there. You know, it's like I feel like the SEO guys and the digital marketing guys are the little guys in cubicles and, you know, hiding in the
calculator
back.
Watch, stuff like that.
Yeah. Got the deal in their pocket, you know. It's like,
exactly.
I'm working on SEO today. You know, that kind of
Big
thing.
internet nerd. That's what we can call me. My wife would attest to that.
Is that right?
Oh yeah. She's like, I don't know how you're interested in this stuff, but I'm glad it's working out for you. Like, me too.
Your knowledge of this stuff is just amazing. And so one of the things I wanted to do today is really, how did you get to the point where this was something that you figured out that maybe you liked, that you wanted to do more with, that kind of stuff? You know, what were some of the things that made you go, yeah, this is awesome?
Well, my background's in sales, and I was in legal marketing for a while with a national company. When I left that to start my own thing, I realized SEO is one of the most lucrative channels for any small business or large business, for that matter, to acquire clients. The problem with most larger agencies is you're kind of boxed in as a salesperson. You're selling these sort of one-size-fits-all solutions, and it wasn't very effective. And when we, or myself being kind of the internet nerd I alluded to, started playing with different tools and doing it on my own and kind of hiring some freelancers in other industries like health care and med spas I worked with for a while, I realized the power of it if it was done the right way without taking shortcuts. And so I kind of built in a lot of ways a business around that channel because it's so exploited in the marketing world. Like I said, when it's done right with transparency, it's a whole lot of fun when results are attached to effort. And so that's kind of how that became.
Man, it seems like it's like this great, you know, unknown to most business owners. You know, I would say a lot of the businesses in our Vistage group, including me, really don't have a grip on, oh yeah, I need SEO, I need digital marketing, but don't have a real good idea of what actually is behind that, what they need to do, where they need to spend money, you know. So it's like this throw something on the wall and see if it sticks kind of approach, which is not great.
No. I mean, it just depends on, and a lot of people just don't have a sort of wider view of what they need to do. Who are their clients? Where do they come from? Is SEO and the real estate on Google search results something that is important for my business or not? And where should my money go if there's a dozen different channels on traditional marketing, digital marketing, paid ads, SEO, and organic? Where does that money go? And that's why we're so also niche with who we serve in the legal world and law firms, because there's just a very specific sort of, you know, ratio of spend to return on investment. And I think that's what's tough for a lot of companies. They don't have any idea on who to trust to tell them the truth on where money should go and results that they should expect, and are they being taken advantage of. It's tough. It's a tough position.
But yet we have to be thinking that way now, right?
Yeah.
We really don't. I mean, if you want to be successful in business now, especially a small business, you have to be thinking about SEO and digital marketing, or it's no longer and here I own a video production company, you know, we do TV spots, but you can't just buy a local TV spot now and expect to have the success that you had 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's different.
Users, I mean, consumers our attention span is short. We are in a world of instant gratification, instant answers. You know, now that Chat GPT and all that stuff is out.
I am so obsessed with that right now.
It's hard not to be obsessed with it. I mean, is that not just a great example of instantaneous answers to any problem you could conceivably think of?
It's unbelievable.
And so, I mean, going back to your point on, running TV spots or any kind of marketing, it's like, how do I capture the attention of my audience? And how do I fulfill their needs and build trust in a place where just messages are being blasted everywhere?
Right.
That's a tough nut to crack.
I'm hoping video is one of the answers to that.
Yeah, video I believe is. I mean, if you actually look statistically at, video ties into SEO, just looking at time on site and bounce rate and how it engages people with Google's, core web vitals and what they're looking at in terms of how to build trust and authority on the site. That's one of the most underutilized things, I think, not just for law firms, but for any business, because the storytelling component is so powerful. A lot of people spend tons of money running paid ads, doing SEO, or even doing TV spots and other things. And when they get to the site and what content is on there is so either dated, archaic, lacks any emotion, lacks any real value propositions, and it's just these sort of boilerplate statements that every other competitor has. And when you have something like video or even these podcasts that differentiate you and help people know who you are, know what they can expect when they have a consultation, or if they were to call your business, whatever kind of business it is, and what they can expect, there's a lot of trust built before they even pick up the phone. I mean, if you're comparing, let's just take like home services, roofer A, roofer B, roofer C, and somebody's got a professional video and assets like that describe why people choose them and et cetera. It's like, who are you going to call?
Yeah.
And people don't think about the conversion of traffic on their site to leads. And I kind of call that failing at the finish line. They spent, like I said, all this money and they're not building any value. They're not selling themselves. And that makes our efforts as SEOs or any other marketers' efforts sort of fall flat, because it's hard to sometimes call people's baby ugly when you're looking at their online assets and creative assets, and when they just don't have the time they spend on it. It's like, well, I can't help you until that's fixed. A lot of time, I have a law firm I talked to yesterday where I was like, you can't spend money on marketing to drive traffic or drive awareness to your website, because it is hurting you. It's not even helping you. It's not neutral. It's hurting you. It's 7 years old in the world of the internet. That's like 20 years old, right? And he agreed. He was like, I thought that. I didn't think it should matter too much, but you've convinced me that there's nothing else I should prioritize before my website, and video, I think, should be on there too. So
that clip's going on our website as a sales piece right there. That's amazing.
Everyone should be doing
it. Really is. People don't realize it. I have those conversations that we're doing a lot of retainer agreements for content creation for clients now. The ones that get it realize that we need to be creating content over and over and over and over for things like you just said. And they're immediately set apart from their competition, because most people don't think that way.
They don't. And the reason they don't, number one, most people fear being in front of a camera. They fear putting themselves out there. I get it. And that's just something you have to choose to accept and overcome, I think, is really number one from a sort of psychological perspective. But then two, it's really hard to measure the impact of a video on your website unless you really understand sort of the holistic strategy. You can look at things like I mentioned, time on site and user engagement and bounce rate through Google Analytics, things like that. But unless you're measuring, and very few companies look at lead management, and when you have leads coming off of your website or leads coming from a podcast channel, how are you measuring that? How are you defining the quality of those leads versus other channels? And there's just work around it, and it's very intangible. And so they think, I'll just throw this stuff out there and see if it makes a difference, but there's no way to quantify it if you don't understand how to. And I think that's the other end of it is, okay, I've done this video. How do I quantify the results? And if I don't know how to, who does know? That isn't going to feed me a bunch of BS,
because,
right?
You know how many emails I get every day from somebody who says, hey, a lot from overseas. You want to rank higher?
I do too. Yeah.
And you're exactly right. Who are you going to believe? I think that's a big deal. But I want to come back to the quantify discussion, because that's a big deal, and that's I think where a lot of people get hung up. It's like, well, if I spend, $10,000 a month on Google Ads, how am I gonna see a return on that? So I want to talk about that, but first I want to ask you. you have a mind that's set up for this. I mean, I can just tell from being around you. What is it about this that like lights your fire? You know, I mean, you love. I suspect you like to research things. You like to get in and figure out how things work. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. I think, as a problem solver, there's a lot of gratification to see a problem and try to understand how to solve it. I think most entrepreneurs are that way. But I think there's also the other side that people don't consider. There's actually a lot of creativity in this digital marketing world, even as something as analytical as SEO or paid ads, which oftentimes are just data and formulas and split testing and things like that.
Yeah.
Unlike video or podcasts, which is more of a brand play and storytelling. And so the creative side on the data and the analytical pieces of the marketing are vast in that it's kind of like a giant puzzle. And with marketing, there's always several pieces missing because internet technologies evolve at lightning speed. You really are never totally buttoned up with what you could or should be doing to expand your presence, reach your target audience, and generate qualified leads if that's your goal as a business. So it's a constant problem that needs to be solved. In the creative aspect, you can layer on a lot of different things creatively to get a better result. And by that I mean, you have team members you're hiring or people that you choose to work with that have really brilliant analytical minds. That's one layer. Another layer is the tools that are out there like ChatGPT or Surfer SEO or any of these AI softwares that can ingest basically pieces of the internet or search results and give you sort of this, I kind of call it seeing your competitor's hand in poker, giving you a roadmap of what you need to do to succeed, to rank. And there's ways to layer on those sort of technologies. And then there's the data. How does the data be interpreted with those layers? You can get really nuanced into long tail versus head term keywords and search and the volume. I mean, there's just so many creative elements that are at play there.
Yes.
And I'm being a little long-winded with my answer, but at least for me and our agency, and that's why we call ourselves Growth Lab, is because we sort of view ourselves as constantly learning, constantly testing, and trying to solve the new challenges ahead of us.
So
right?
I just got a vision of your new promotional video. You guys in this lab, and you're looking at data, and smoke coming up.
That's
and
how
you're
I feel. That'd be a good parody, right? We walk through the smoke. And, that'd be fun.
You want us working on your SEO?
Yeah.
That's funny. But yeah, I mean, so how did you realize? I mean, I feel like you're kind of there's left brain and there's right brain. I feel like you probably have both. Would you agree with that?
I would say I'm much more right-brained, actually.
Are you? Okay.
Originally in high school, I was the art guy and some other things, but mostly art. I mean, I was doing a lot of graphic design, a lot of actually pottery and scholastic art competitions. I was actually very close to going to the Rhode Island Institute of Art and Design.
No kidding.
Most people don't know that about me, and they're like, okay, well, where's that side of you? I'm like, yeah, it kind of died, and I miss it. And I always have to fulfill the creative side of me. I hated math. I hated learning Spanish, but I ended up being a journalism and English major because I just didn't see a big career path for me in just graphic design or art. Even though that is a passion of mine, it just didn't translate into what I sort of envisioned for my life, so I pivoted. But I would say I'm much more right-brained, to be honest with you.
That's
more visionary.
Incredible. Yeah. When just a little side note, when I got out of school, so I went to Wichita State. I got out of school, and I was a musician, a full-time musician, and a computer science minor, a business degree. And I got asked to, there's a company called EDS, Ross Perot. I don't know if you remember that name. He ran for president back in the day. And they offered me a job because, sight unseen, because of computer programming and music.
So
isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's an interesting combination.
Yeah.
What kind of music were you into?
I was we were traveling around the Midwest, and I was we were trying to get signed. So at the time I would have called it college alternative.
Oh yeah, so you were like an actual musician.
Yeah.
See, I was a band nerd in high school.
Yeah.
And did all that stuff. So
yeah. So, but writing songs is similar to writing a code.
I mean, it can be.
Sure, I mean,
absolutely.
so they had figured out that the way a musician's brain works is very, very compatible with how a programmer would work. Isn't that interesting?
Well, yeah, I feel like that's
kind of what I'm thinking.
Like somebody would pay a pretty penny for that kind of asset. So that's
right,
smart.
right.
Yeah.
I didn't end up doing it, but it was an interesting thing to me that they would want to hire somebody like me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I'm a musician, you know, that kind of thing. But I love the fact that you can dive into the details of what's really going on. I mean, how long did it take you to learn that skill set? Because that's not something you just sit down and read an article and now I understand this now.
No, I mean, I've always been in front of a computer. My dad growing up was either freelancing as a graphic designer. He was an art director at an agency when he retired 6 or 7 years ago here in Kansas City. But he was always around.
Really?
He was always messing with the creative and the computer. And I remember, and I don't even know what year this would have been, but like building websites with, GeoCities on Yahoo and building websites with Dreamweaver and doing all these different things. I think my first...
Our audience is going to go, Dreamweaver?
Yeah, Dreamweaver.
Isn't that a classic rock song?
Yeah. Dreamweaver. Yeah. I think I do that. So I think I was a senior in high school when somebody, a grown up, paid me money to build a website. It was a friend of mine's dad who basically owned a company that looked at call centers and analytics around call centers and how to sort of better create efficiencies within what they measured, whatever. And I created a website for him. I think I was paid like $100, $150 in high school and little things like that. So I've always been in that environment. I always loved sort of looking at code. I remember, if you remember Flash.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We did a lot in Flash.
Yeah. I don't know why. I was obsessed with Flash and ActionScript, which is the coding language behind Flash.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I became pretty dang good at ActionScript. I just fell into again, it's kind of marrying the creative side of code and computer stuff with the analytical side. So I've just always done it.
So that's where your creative outlet was at that point, it sounds like, doing stuff like that.
Yeah,
Isn't it amazing how, how you built a website then compared to how you build a website now?
I laugh, yeah. I mean, it's tables and
I would have never been able to do that. I built our website, but we use Divi.
Yep.
I'm giving the secret sauce,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, once you figure out the kind of nuances of Divi, I can build stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Most
I mean,
people
I can put videos up and colors and all that stuff. But man, you couldn't have done that 10 years ago.
No, I mean, like I said, it's a lot of tables and headers and if you could get some animated GIF images in there, you felt like a rock star. And maybe that's why I loved Flash. I actually built a couple full websites only in Flash, Adobe Flash. I think Adobe owned Adobe.
That's right.
Then. And,
that's right. We had a Flash website for many years. I mean,
it was
that's
so cool. And, I had a company I called Weasel Tech. I don't know why. I just thought that was a funny name, and I had weaseltech.com, and I had my Flash website, and it was a bunch of gears turning and weird levers pulling, and I don't even really know what the whole purpose of it was other than, hey, look what I can do.
Yeah.
So just stuff like that I always did. So,
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So now you've got, WordPress and I mean, WordPress is, I know there's other platforms people are building stuff on, but that's probably the main one now, right? For all websites.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what our team uses. We use Elementor as sort of our back-end block. I know Divi pretty well. And
do you like Elementor? Is it better than Divi, do you think?
I mean, for us it is, I think. It's kind of like Pepsi or Coke and a lot of those builders.
Yeah.
There's one called Xtheme I used a lot. And then, there's some other builders out there that I think are really pretty good, like Webflow and some others that I haven't worked a ton. It's certainly Wix and Squarespace are out there, but I think they serve their own purpose. So I would definitely say WordPress is the way to go to get what you need to have happen on there.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, what were when you were your first selling job when you were kind of learning how to sell, and was that in the legal industry as well?
No. I think in college I watched a movie where somebody was like a pharmaceutical sales rep, and I remember this in my mind being like, wait, you can make how much money in sales? I just couldn't grasp it.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe that's what I need to do. I was an outgoing person and am. My mom always wanted me to be a lawyer because I was a debater in high school for a little bit, and I just liked. I would present my Christmas list on a PowerPoint to my parents in like middle school. Right? I mean, I was just over the top. So I'm like, here's why you should get me this, or here's why you should help me pay for a car, or just silly stuff like that. So anyways, in college, I had this idea of sales being a lucrative career path, just money wise, compensation wise. So I I knew somebody that worked for the student newspaper, the Kansan. I was at University of Kansas, and I ended up getting a job selling advertising spots in the Kansan. So
Really?
I'd go basically down Massachusetts streets and into these little small businesses, bars, shops, and basically say, hey, this is sort of the student's Bible. This Kansan, everyone reads it every day. They get it out of the blue box, and here's where you should advertise. And I did that for 2 years there, and then that set me up to sort of interview for different sales jobs. Being from Kansas, I thought California culture would be really neat, so I only interviewed out there. And my shoe-in job was the Orange County Register, which was selling, again, newspaper ads, but that was in 2008, and that industry was collapsing, and it is evolving.
Everything collapsed in 2008.
That's
man.
true.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I survived out there during that. And so I interviewed there. They offered me a job, and then what was interesting is there's a payroll company, ADP, that I learned about like by pure chance, and that's a whole another story I won't get into. But I convinced them to interview me out there, and they're like, so you want to work here? What's your sales experience? I was like, well, I sold some ads in the student newspaper. Like, okay, well, where do you live? And I was like, I live in Kansas City. They're like, okay, and you want to work in Orange County? And they're like, I don't think this is going to work. So I basically was put in a room with one of their VPs just as like a final, like, I'm sorry kind of thing. And I essentially was like, if you don't understand the necessity I have to succeed, I can't move back home. I don't want to move back home. This is like my dream to live out here. I will bust my tail to make this happen. And I think they were just like, God, I guess you're right. I could see that being the case. You know what? Let's give it a shot. So they offered me a job before I even had an address in California. I remember calling my girlfriend at the time, now wife, Melissa, and being like, you're not going to believe this. In fact, I have a video I took of me getting the offer in the parking lot. I look like I'm 12. I have this really baggy button-up shirt on, and I'm like, I can't believe I got the job. They only hire the top 5%, whatever. And I'm like all high and mighty, and I just remember the joy feeling it. And now I absolutely despise that job, and was like trying to survive the first year, and there's a whole lot of stories behind that. But that's kind of how my sales career
But that was
started.
part of your DNA now, right? I mean, think about the courage it took to go in and talk to a VP and convince them. I mean, that's amazing.
It was just pure desperation, honestly. I'm like, I didn't want to work for the Register. I didn't want to work for a newspaper. I'm like, this is my only other shot. I have all the eggs in this basket. So I think they felt like, hey, I have to challenge your decision on this. And I think if you're an entrepreneur, I think this is a good point. And I think sales is the number one skill above anything else that an entrepreneur can have to succeed, period.
Man.
So I just got to throw that out there.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, in the recent years, we're 25. I've been in business 25 years. And recently, I'm starting to work a lot more on, kind of processes and, some of the kind of the back end stuff of running a company. But my number one focus every day is how am I going to bring in the next revenue stream, And if I didn't do that, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
It is. Sales is such an important thing. Yeah. I mean, why do you think you're good at it? Is it confidence? Is it understanding what you're selling? What is it?
Well, to be honest, I mean, I don't believe sales is some natural thing. I think anybody and everybody, I don't think I know anybody can be successful at it. And really, the one thing you have to be willing to accept and to do to be successful at it is to get over your own fear.
Yes.
And within the first few months of me working at ADP, going basically door to door, selling payroll, which no one wants to mess with, switching their payroll. It's like
the crap beat out of you every day, right?
I had a lady pull me out by the ear one time like a child and pull me outside of her store and point to a no soliciting sign. And I'm like, well, I'll lose my job if I don't get you'd have to get business cards from these people to prove you're going door to door. But anyway, that's the first few months of doing that. There was this a manager there named Nick, and he's like, let me give you some advice, Will. Whatever scares you the most in this job, like cold calling, people hated it. Like picking up the phone, let me just bug you, Brad, and like, hey, I'm from ADP, let's talk about payroll. No, I'm good. I got a busy day, right? Just rejection.
Yeah.
Whatever scares you the most, going into that door with a no soliciting sign, that's scary stuff. Do that thing. The more you do it, the less you're going to fear. And that's the difference between the people that make it in sales and that don't. They're willing to do what scares everybody else. And it scared the hell out of me. I hated it. But I did it so much that it just didn't matter anymore. And it just took about a year and a half of just getting my ass kicked to do it.
Yeah.
But again, the necessity of not wanting to leave, not moving home. So you also have to find out what motivates you, and that magnet that pulls you through all that crap. You have to define like your why to do the stuff that scares you. But it's absolutely doing what scares you the most that anyone can be good at sales if you're willing to do that.
Well, that is so true. And that's a life lesson.
Yeah.
I mean, that's anything in life. There's things that scare us and it's like we're fearful of, but it's like when you overcome the fear and you push forward, you grow, you accomplish something. I mean, it's everything.
And you get in the habit of it. It's like those cold polar plunge things that are all hot topics nowadays, which I've never done because I hate cold water. But I think part of it's the mental sort of trigger of really hating and fearing what you're about to do because it's going to be painful and doing it anyway, and sitting in freezing water for 60 seconds or something, and then doing that every day, and something that does to your brain to build this tolerance for pain and fear. It's kind of like that. That's kind of an extreme example, but you can apply that to almost anything.
Yeah,
I think.
it's very true. Yeah.
So
have you ever done the cryo therapy?
No,
you made me think of that.
Where you're like trapped into a tube and
well, so just a little side note. I've done the cryotherapy thing, but you put on a robe. You really don't have anything on, and then you go into this chamber that is like 10 degrees or something like that, but only for 3 minutes. So you get in, you take your robe off, and you're just standing there,
stark
naked. Yeah. But you come out of there and you're like refreshed. It's really amazing. And you can make it 3 minutes. They put music on, so you can be distracted, but you come out of there and you put your robe back on and it's like all of a sudden you're refreshed. It's really amazing.
It's weird. Are you shivering and freezing at the end of it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're cold.
Yeah.
But it's amazing what that does for healing and stuff. And that whole side note, but we got to overcome our fears, man. That's any entrepreneur. There's fearful stuff that happens all the time.
That's it. That's what separates success and not. I mean, it's sales and not for sure.
It's mental.
It's mental.
You've got to battle through that. Yeah. All right. So I want to talk about AI a little bit with you because you understand that. So this came up in our Vistage meeting. You and I had talked about this just a little bit before that. But man, the last month, I mean, it's exploding. National news is covering ChatGPT. I mean, it's unbelievable. My wife is a CFO of a school, and they're concerned now that the kids are writing papers with it.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so I've done some things. So I have two questions for you, but I've done, I'm kind of obsessed with it and with the image generation side of AI, which is really amazing. Yeah. But the stuff that I put in there, like I'm working on a television show pilot for Demolition Derby right now. So I said, write a pitch for this television show with this person and a redemption story. It comes back with the paragraph that I couldn't have written that paragraph, and it was amazingly on point.
Yeah,
unbelievable. It's like, so that's one question, and then what do you think about that? And then the next question I have is are we going to be penalized for using content like that from an SEO standpoint?
Okay, so AI, ChatGPT, I mean, it's going to be applied to nearly everything the internet touches and things outside of that too. It's evolving so fast. I mean, I think just yesterday they came out with ChatGPT Plus, I believe they call it, which is $20. No.
They got to start monetizing it pretty soon, right?
Maybe it's $100 a month. I think it's 20. But regardless, they started monetizing it. So it's about how you use it versus it, I think, replacing people. A lot of people think it's like every other technology.
People are freaking out. I see on national news, oh my gosh, people are going to start losing their jobs.
Yeah. And I mean, Google obviously they've called it a red alert, and it's just the Google killer. You've got Bing integrating it into their search since Microsoft was an early investor into developing it. And so
Google should be worried, don't you think?
They should be.
Yeah.
When you get better answers on a chat AI than you do on Google, that's problematic. Do I think Google will find a way to combat it? Of course. We don't know what that's going to look like yet. And so to answer your question on will AI hurt SEO efforts, if you rely on it, I think it can, but I don't. It's not a linear black and white answer either, because like way my SEO team leverages it is not to just let it write the content and do all the work for us, and then we spit whatever out and we plaster it up on a website. There's massaging to be done. There's a lot of the human element on how you prompt ChatGPT and how you let it rewrite things and how you make sure it's matching the tone of your client, and all of those things is important. But they also, OpenAI just released a way to detect AI written content. Google is going to detect AI written content in search. So there's going to be, Google's going to have to understand that it can't completely penalize AI content because it's so prevalent and because it's quality. If it's got human eyes on it and we're making sure it's accurate, you can't penalize it, because then you're removing that good piece of information out of results. But at some point, I mean, if you think about it, this AI is reading the internet. It's ingesting and consuming the internet. There's ways to even block your website from allowing it to be read by AI crawlers,
oh, really?
By the way, that's new. If you don't want your content to be picked up by ChatGPT. But at some point, if content moving forward is written by AI, and AI is reading, right now at least, non-AI content, as we shift and move that timeline forward, the AI-generated content is being generated from AI-generated content. So it's like this weird negative feedback loop that I predict, and I don't know how that's going to play out, but it's something to keep in mind, I think. So like our content that we write for clients is not AI-generated. We use AI for different research around keywords and a lot of other things. But for that reason, we aren't using AI content because it's smart. It knows what you've put in there and prompted before, and it dilutes over time pretty quickly the content you even write as an account user, because it's known what you've prompted in the past and it's known what you've wanted and what you were asking it to rewrite. And so at some point it's sort of got this, deteriorating effect of quality. And that I think will happen, and we'll see how it's combated against. So.
Yeah. It's an amazing time we live in, isn't it?
And I could be completely wrong on all this, right? This is just how I'm envisioning it.
Yeah, everybody's guessing. I've heard that same response that you gave as far as maybe using it to answer a question or generate some content, but then going in and really making it your own, in your voice and that kind of thing. But still, I mean, half of my battle in writing content is getting started. Yeah. And man, what a great tool to come up. Okay, now I can take this paragraph and I can massage it. Now I wouldn't say this. I wouldn't say this. I mean, I had it do a thing on the Demolition Derby project. Give me a list of characters for a reality television show around Demolition Derby. We've got with the promoter and the drivers, and it came back with, here's the superstar, here's the promoter, here's the up and coming driver, here's the comeback kid.
Yeah. So it's building characters out from this thing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I'm like, where is it seeing this content? I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's wild. I had a buddy, a close colleague of mine, and I were on the phone. This is just like 10 days ago, and he and I are just talking informally about some stuff. Had him on speaker, and out of nowhere, I'm like, "Hey, by the way, have you heard of ChatGPT?" He's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." I was like, "Oh, I'm going to send you this in a little bit. You'll freak out. It's this AI tool, blah blah blah." He's like, "Okay." So as we're talking, he's talking about he's engaged and he's getting married. So as I'm talking, I'm asking him, he doesn't realize I'm asking him some questions around like his fiance, like where she's from, like what she's into, and like what he's excited about in the wedding. And as I'm asking this in real time,
you're typing it in. Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Write these wedding vows for my friend. I won't say his name and his fiance, her name, and include these things about her background, what they're into, this and that. And it wrote this entire wedding vow. And I go, "Hey, check your email." And this is like 10 seconds after this conversation ends, because I hit one button, boom, there's the vows. He goes, "What the hell is this?" I go, "Isn't that crazy?" He's like, "What? Where did you just have this written for some reason?" I'm like, so I wouldn't tell him what it is. And then he's talking to me about, "Hey, we're wrapping up the conversation." He's like, "I got to go. I have to write this quarterly business review for my boss."
Oh no.
And I go, what does he want in the review? And he starts telling me what he wants in the review. And of course, I'm typing into ChatGPT, write a quarterly business review for this person, and this is what kind of data and what he needs and his struggles, this and that. And I hit enter, and then I send him, I'm like, "Hey, check your email." And he goes, "I wrote your quarterly business review." He's going, "What the hell are you doing over there?" So wrote his wedding vows and his quarterly business review in about
And it was probably spot on, right?
Well, what he did was, he actually wrote his quarterly business review himself then. Once he realized what I was doing, like the next day, he actually used ChatGPT to write it and, of course, changed a few things. But, yeah, AI wrote his quarterly business review.
Wow.
So
well,
there you go. Fun story there.
Most people wouldn't even have known that that's happening. Yeah, it's really amazing. Really amazing. Yeah. So I want to switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about your company. Talk about what's the actual. Do you have a different brand that you use for the attorneys? Or
yeah, there's like two entities I have. Growth Lab is my legal marketing agency that does SEO, paid ads on search, and websites. That's all we do.
Okay.
And then Performance Content Partners, and this is not a derivative of ChatGPT or any AI that we've been talking about. It's simply a content creation company that creates website content in order to rank and drive traffic. That's why it's called performance content. It's content and copy can be used a million different ways for a million different applications in marketing. This is specifically to put on your website in the navigational hierarchy as service pages, location pages, FAQ pages to drive traffic. And we use AI to understand what and how to write it, but not AI to write it. And so that's Performance Content Partners. And that's not legal. That's anything but legal, actually.
Oh, okay.
It's any
and
kind of
small. Is that fairly new?
It is new, yeah.
Okay.
We had our first dollar of revenue come in December of 2022 with our first 2 signed clients here in Kansas City.
Awesome.
And we're kind of testing a few things with them and before we scale it too quickly. So it's exciting though.
That's so you're kind of embracing AI at least on the discovery side of things, but then bringing in the human element to the content to make sure that it's right and it's not going to be like we talked about before with penalized or anything like that.
Yeah, because like you mentioned earlier, Brad, people have a desire to create content or video or creative anything. But what do I write about? And then how do I get started? And so, my team is no different, especially if it's an industry where we're working with a car dealership or, a home healthcare company or something like that, where, we need to understand what users, their potential clients are searching when they're researching, a Jeep Wrangler or when they're researching a home healthcare aid and all of these things. What are they asking? What are their fears and pain points? How can we write about that? So that's where AI can help us to understand those things and then give us a launching off point to get that content created. You know what I mean? So that's what's fun. It takes the guesswork out of it. Like
that's amazing. I mean, it's doing the learning for you.
Yeah.
And then you take it and, put the icing on the cake basically, right?
Yeah.
Sort of.
It's just knowing how to craft all of those
and where to put it
and how to make it, where to put it.
I mean, all those things. I mean, we don't, as most business owners, don't understand any of those things.
Yeah.
So it's a huge, I can't imagine you can't scale that idea with the need that's out there. You're going to have more of a problem finding people to do the work, in my opinion. Than
I think, like I said, we're intentionally going slow in the beginning to ensure quality and consistency and process on the back end. But I believe it could scale, and we've scaled Growth Lab really. We had 89% year-over-year growth in 2022 to 21. I think this other one will, when it picks up steam, will go even faster.
Yeah, that's
because
awesome.
It's so specific and so linear, which is, as an entrepreneur, again, it's about creative ways to create enterprise value and stuff, and that's a whole other kind of topic that's really where my head is now. I've gotten out of the tactical, out of the trenches and a lot of this stuff, and I can be more of a visionary, more of somebody that can see the need in marketplaces and how to scale and what does create enterprise value if you were to sell a company in 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other world that I'm really consuming and learning about because I find it very fascinating. It's like bringing in an old car and restoring it and flipping it. You can do that with a business as well. It's fun. So.
Yeah. So tell me, so I'm an attorney. I'm not really, but let's say I'm an attorney, and I want to make a splash in the market that I'm in. Tell me what you would be able to help me with. Kind of give me not a sales pitch, but kind of is. So the listeners can really understand Growth Lab, the concept for attorneys.
So that's a great question. The first thing I'm asking, and I'm asking this because attorneys are, the attorneys we work with are often great lawyers. They're terrible business people, and they know that. And if an attorney heard this, they would laugh because, yeah, he's right. And so that's because they're not in law school. You don't learn about marketing. You don't learn about business development and lead management and staff and hiring. You learn about the law. and all of those things, and how to win in court and in trial. So I'm trying to understand what's their level of business acumen, like where's their revenue, where are they trying to get to, and do they have unrealistic expectations on how they think they can grow? Because at the end of the day, no matter what you're investing marketing in, it's a system that can be placed alongside of your business operations that should drive revenue outside of your referral network. So I have to make sure they understand how that system looks and works. And that way I can then confidently recommend, okay, I'm understanding what you're trying to do. I'm understanding your clients, who you're going after, how your revenue and cash flow works, all of those things. Here's what you should do if I were sitting where you were. And that's kind of my approach. It's not a sales approach. It's really more of a, based on my experience, here's what I would do if I were you, where I would invest. Here's how do I prioritize that investment. And I just kind of lay it out there. And it's always with the sort of understanding that even if you work with us or don't work with us, my recommendation is going to be, pretty spot on. I've been in legal 10 years. Even though I don't have a JD, I've seen it all. I know what's out there. I've seen a million attorney websites. I've seen a million ad campaigns. I've analyzed thousands of rows of data. I know what's out there. I know what works and doesn't work. So I can define that for them. If they can afford to outsource it and they trust us, great. I'd love to win your business. If they can't, and timing's not right, I can send them to other places and resources, because there's more that we don't do at Growth Lab than we do. And I think people look at me as just a resource they can trust, again, whether that means they're fit for my team or not. And that's kind of the groundwork for that.
Man,
So,
they've got to appreciate that approach, though.
yeah, I hate to be sold.
Yeah.
No one wants to be sold to.
Yeah.
Pressured into stuff. That's the worst.
That's the whole Zig Ziglar approach. Do you know who Zig Ziglar is? So yeah, I spent a day with him.
Oh, did you? Cool.
Yeah. And he's one of the things he said is, if you want to be successful, help somebody else be successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very true. And that's the way selling should be. We just get hammered all the time with people trying to convince us. Like, I'm looking at security systems. I've been with the same company and I'm ready to change here. You wouldn't believe the different approaches that people come at me with, trying to kind of pressure me into making a decision to hire them. It's like, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
I'll make the decision when I'm ready, but you're not going to force me into anything.
Yeah, I'm out here. I got this one discount I can use right now. I'm like, no, you can use it if I want to work with you, because you know what I mean? You have leverage. It's just knowing that's kind of, it's crazy. As a business owner, you probably get a million emails a day that's like, found you online, found you on LinkedIn. Here's, and it's just this boilerplate. Here's what we do. Is that of interest? If you're going to get my attention, this is just general sales advice. It needs to be specific about me. You have done some level of research to understand what could be my pain points, and people that create like Loom videos or anything specific and that have done even an ounce of research on me or my business that they couldn't find just by looking at my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
I always respond to out of respect for their work, even if it's not something I'm interested in. I always say, you know what? I appreciate how you tailored your message to what my needs might be. That took some work for you. It's not a good time or for whatever reason, but good luck out there. But it's the bombardment of all that just, hi, first name, comma, business name, comma. Like, no, that's never going to work.
So tell me about the future of Growth Lab. I mean, it's got to be just have great upside.
I'm so excited for it.
Yeah.
We just got back from Charleston, South Carolina last week. We had our all hands meeting. Flew 7 of my leaders out there. Had a great time, and the future really looks really bright. I mean, we have dialed in what's really working from a service offering perspective. We have ambitious revenue goals and client retention goals out there for 2023 that I'm confident we're going to hit. We're bringing on, a business development person that has a ton of experience in the industry here in a couple months that is really going to change things, and it's going to allow me to step out of some more tactical business development roles that I love and I won't completely forget, but it will allow me to, work on other things that'll help propel us forward. So we're
need
excited.
to be working on the business, not in the business, right?
Yeah. That's
and
huge.
then the other business, the performance side. I mean, that's going to that has potential to take off as well.
Yeah, I mean, just yesterday I finalized sort of our reporting dashboard and getting all of that stuff together. So that's just I feel like we're kind of on a precipice with that. Like, once we have these 2 new clients kind of calibrated in terms of, our our follow-up cadence and reporting cadence and how we, are transparent with the results and some of those nuances, I think we have not been aggressive at all at finding people for that company yet. And I think that'll happen in probably beginning of maybe Q2 of this year.
The great thing about your business is you can have a whole staff working from home, which is that's a big, big win for hiring people right now.
Yeah. And that's one of the challenges with a place like this. And I was so excited today to come to this space because I love it here. You've got all this amazing equipment, this podcast studio, your video stuff, which I did at the beginning with you when I met you. And I mean, anything to create is here, but it is a different circumstance in that you have to be physically here to utilize it, which would love to get this message out for people in Kansas City. It's like this little treasure that I think a lot of people don't know about that are needing what you have, honestly.
I know. That's my challenge. That's been my biggest challenge, I mean, we've been here for 25 years and still there are a lot of people that don't know about us.
Well, there's so many people that knew, like young entrepreneurs like myself, that would even see the value of a lot of this, maybe more than some of the older generation, possibly, not to stereotype things, but they just understand the world of TikTok and all of that, and just all of these production tools that are professional that can be utilized. And I'm not saying you can't take a selfie video and have it be effective on your phone, but if you're really trying to create some brand equity, having this in your backyard in Kansas City is a huge asset.
I tell people all the time that you can still do that, but what we do is add a whole library of content that goes along with that. So I don't ever tell people not to stop using that approach.
Right.
But what we do is bring in the branding side, like you said, which is higher quality, better messaging, focused on a very specific target audience, that kind of thing. That now you've got this whole library of content that you can use. So that's kind of when people ask me about that, that's what I say.
And I mean, as a consumer, don't you care about people that care enough about you as a potential buyer of whatever kind of business to put those assets together? That just means you care about what my questions are and how to answer them and what, my decision-making process. And for those that don't have that, not to say they don't care, but to be honest, do they care enough to actually go and do it?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Those are the things I think about when I'm looking at for whatever I need to buy or whoever I need to hire. Like, what's that 5-second rule when I get to their website? Who are you? What do you do? How do I contact you? But who are you?
Yeah.
Through what you've got here, I mean, boy, can you really?
I probably could improve our website when it comes to that too, honestly.
We all can.
Man, it's like a never-ending
updating
evil, process. Right? Yeah. It was funny. One last thing, and then we'll close. I have a company that we do retainer work with. It's a roofing company, and just this week we shot probably, I think, close to 20 little, 45-second to 1-minute videos on overcoming objections. So, commercial, it's too expensive. How's this going to mess my business up when this is happening? And now they've got these little pieces of content that can go out on YouTube and on their website. Their salespeople can, put a link in a proposal. Here's some things to think about. There's nobody in their industry doing anything like that.
I love that. I call that squashing the grenades.
Yeah.
Like you blow it up before it blows up on you.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't realize how powerful that is in trust building. When you can squash those, that's what we called it in sales back then, squash those grenades. How do you do that intentionally before they come up? Because at the back of people's minds, as they make decisions, they're there. And if you can eliminate that, that's powerful. I love that case study.
Yeah. So we'll have to maybe do a case study on that. So anyway, pretty cool. I'm trying to think as, out of the box as I can about the uses of video and, content, things that we can do that really help companies grow and help them, bring in more revenue.
Well, I think you're spot on with what you just said. And I'll give you a personal example. We bought a new house a few months back. We're doing some work to it. We're in the process right now of getting bids for this pretty big project, right? And the person we're leaning towards is somebody that has effectively communicated a lot of the concerns that I either knew I had or didn't know I had, but they, with their experience, knew they would come up and have articulated them to me, both in email, both in person, Their website is pretty well put together and some of that stuff. And Melissa and I, my wife, last night are talking about like, well, there's person A, there's person B, and I'm not even kidding. Person B being sort of my first choice is because of how they've communicated sort of what they know through my buying and decision process would be a concern. And to me, they're like, that just says they know what they're talking about. They've been here before. And so, I just think that is so powerful. So to take video and to have that, like I tell lawyers, have, 6 hours of production or even a few hours and just take every FAQ that you get asked. How do I find the best divorce lawyer? What do I look for? How do I win a child custody hearing? I'm taking really specific examples.
Yeah.
What does pricing matter when it comes to hiring a lawyer? Why would I pay one price versus whatever it is, and have that on the site because they're consuming it. And we see people spend 10, 12 minutes on a client's website of ours that have those types of video players and those kinds of assets to answer those questions. That's a massive amount of time to spend on an attorney's website. 12 minutes, right? Time on site on those pages. And it's because they're sitting there consuming all of that video.
And getting
then they're
converted.
Converting.
Yes.
And then when they convert, they reference the video. They've heard my client speak.
Yeah.
In a personal way.
Yes.
And they know what to expect versus the unknown. An attorney's highly educated. Am I going to be judged and feel bad if it's a criminal defense lawyer or whatever? It takes all that away. So that's any roofing, anybody, contractor, like I just mentioned.
Yeah.
You got to have that.
Yeah.
It's powerful stuff.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this whole thing's going on my website as a marketing piece now. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I can't wait to leverage it too. This has been so fun.
Yeah. All right. So couple things. Somebody hears this and they want to engage with you. How would they do that?
I would say just type in Will Palmer, Kansas City in Google. You'll see my LinkedIn pop right up and connect with me, message me on there. It'd be the best place is LinkedIn for me.
And that could be an attorney. It could be any business.
Any business, yeah. I mean, we work in any industry. And so, like I said, reciprocity is big. Even if we're not a fit for what people are looking for, I can absolutely put them in the right direction.
And do you want to give out the websites?
Yeah. Growth Lab is just Growth Lab SEO, like search engine optimization.com. And then Performance Content Partners, which is a mouthful, is that.com. Where you can find us.
Okay. So the last thing that everybody has to do on the podcast, you have to do your voiceover audition as a movie voiceover guy. So I would like for you to get on the mic and say, "In a world with real media." So the key is getting really close and airy, and so in a world with real media.
So you said I could smoke a cigarette first, right?
Sure. All right, man. This is your big chance right here.
Here we go. Ready? In a world with real media. Awesome. That's all I got.
That's awesome. You know what I love about it? This everybody. You did the same thing. Everybody gets that look in their eye, like, it's like, okay, I'm doing it now. So pretty cool.
Yeah. I guess I could go a little bit lower like this. That sounds
you got to get right on the mic. I was the voice of the Miami Heat for 4 years because I knew how to do that technique. I need to hire you to do some It's like the movie voice. But anyway, thank you so much for coming. This is awesome. I learned a lot today.
Yeah, this is awesome.
I love talking about AI and all the stuff that's happening. I'm kind of obsessed with it right now. But I really appreciate you coming on, and man, I hope people will engage with you.
Yeah, thanks, Brad, for having me. We'll do it again soon.
All right. This is the In a World with Real Media podcast. You see my eyes right there. Thank you for joining us. Please share this with other people. Go out and look up Will. Maybe your LinkedIn profile is going to get hit a bunch of times. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast because we have a whole bunch more content coming, and we'd love for you guys to hear it. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. This has been In a World with Real Media. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to subscribe on iTunes and follow Real Media on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn so you never miss an episode.